What is going on, guys? Hope you're having a fantastic Sunday. Welcome to Sunday Night Live with Ryan and Jonathan. What is going on, fellas?
Hey, Michael.
I feel like I should just say I'm tired just to go with every week.
Today is the one day that Ryan has incredible energy, and I've just had a really long.
I don't know that I would say that, but
Come on, man. I'm your hype man, baby. Come on. Gotta get this party started.
You definitely do not, though.
But I'm gonna fake it till I make it. It's just been a long day, but man, I'm ready to go, man. We got some folks in the chat. We got Poncho. Chris is in the house. Good to see you, brother. Alex, what's going on? We've got Poncho is from the Netherlands, man. Super, super cool. Let us know in the chat where you are watching from. It's always pretty cool to see like where our audience is, man. Literally, you guys are all over the world, which is really, really cool to me. Talent, what's going on, man? See a lot of chat in the regarding football. I know zero about football, like nothing. I couldn't tell you who was playing. So, but
it was a great game. I mean,
were y'all enjoying it?
Bucker hit a 61-yard field goal, which is the new record for the Chiefs. So that was exciting. But then we just kind of fell apart in the fourth quarter. Our offense didn't look very good. So it was just.
Oh, see, this is how dumb I am. Literally, I just saw in the chat Kansas City lost. I went, oh yeah, the Kansas City Chiefs. I didn't even know that. So nice. I'm telling you, man. When I say I watch zero sports, I mean it. I mean, like I watch my kids play sports, through high school, and middle school. But other than that, I never watched it on TV. Cool deal, man. What's going on, Jonathan? North Carolina. We got folks from Kansas City, Tennessee, Belgium. Dirk, what is going on, brother? Let's see. Michigan, Georgia. You guys are from all over the world, man. That's awesome, man. Hope y'all are having a great night. We're going to have some fun tonight. We're going to talk about, let me pull up the banner here. Something a little bit different on the show tonight. We're going to be talking about hosting a local get-together, and these guys are actually hosting one. They do it pretty often, but I think you guys have one coming up that we'll talk about on the show a little bit, and just kind of talk about that because that is something super cool, something I'm really jealous of here in Florida. We really don't have that kind of camaraderie.
You could.
I know.
You could.
I need somebody to head that up. I have enough on my plate, man. I am not the guy to head that up. So we're going to talk about that. And then if you have questions, drop those in the chat. Ryan will star those throughout the night. And then after we get done talking about hosting a local get-together, then we'll jump right into answering your questions. And we'll try to be done within an hour tonight. We try to be respectful.
We're not going to do an hour of questions again.
I'll be honest, man. I don't know if I could go that long. I will say this. In regards to number one, thank you so much for you guys for your love and support. We hit 100,000 subscribers. That was awesome. Gave a ton of giveaways away, $33,000 in giveaways. So I felt like Santa Claus, man, doing that live stream. That was so much fun. Just to think that it's like, look, dude, here's one for you and one's for you and one for you. I felt like Oprah, just handing stuff out, man. But that was super cool. And I've got I've been busting out videos from Cedia over the past 2 weeks. So I think I have like 11 or 12 maybe total. And I think I've gotten 10 of those put out. So I basically took the last 2 days off. And then tomorrow I'm going to hit the ground running again, try to crank out some more. So I think I've got 2 left. And then I've got a ton of review stuff in, man. I've got some Heiko speakers. I've got some headphones from Technics. I've got a new device from SVS that literally just arrived yesterday. I'm really pumped about that. It is their new, I think it's called the SoundPath Pro. So it's basically like a small streamer with an amplifier. So I'm curious to see what that's all about.
Competing with Sonos and Blue Sound.
Yeah. So super cool there. So they announced that at Cedia. So that was really cool. If you haven't checked out the video on SVS, you can check that out on the channel. So that was a lot of fun hanging out with those guys. I mean, I've got several other things in there and more stuff on its way. I've got a whole clip system, the new reference Premiere. I think there's about 8 or 9 speakers there, and then a Pioneer AVR. So just I'm a little backed up here. So, but anyway, man, we're going to have some fun tonight. So I hope you guys are doing well. Let's jump right on into it. So we're talking about hosting a local get together. And the first time that I had ever experienced that was when I went up to Wisconsin and Illinois with Tony, which is known by SOWK in the chat a lot of times. So Tony invited me up there and had a chance to go to do my first home theater tour. We did 12 home theaters in 4 days, which was insane. I'll never do that again. That was way, way, way too much. But what I found is there's a community up there that loves to get together monthly, go to different people's homes, and just kind of showcase their system, talk about home theater and music and 2-channel and all that stuff. And you just kind of learn and grow. And then I had a second trip after that. I flew up to Kansas City where I met Jonathan. Jonathan was such a gracious host, let me stay the night with him for the whole week. And then one night he kicked me out and I had to stay with Ryan. Ryan's like, that's not really quite how it went down, but okay, I mean, we'll go with it.
It's all right. I'll play second fiddle.
No, but one night Ryan was like, man, you can just kick it here, man. So we stayed there, stayed up all night. And that's where we began to brainstorm like through M-Wave, and he had an event coming up. And anyway, we just had a blast with those guys. But I'd love for you to share kind of just your thoughts on what would it take to put together a local get together. What are the benefits of that? What are some tips that maybe some of these guys in the chat, if they're wanting to start that in their own community, in their own state, what can they do in their own city? What can they do to kind of get that started? So I'm going to let you guys kind of take the lead on this, and then I'll probably be asking just a lot of questions because I haven't done that yet. So I'm curious myself, and maybe somebody in Florida, if you're in the chat and you're willing to take up that mantle for us, man, I'll do my best to help you and promote it. I just can't be the dude that leads that. I just have too much on my plate. So guys,
I'm going to let Jonathan go first because he's kind of the godfather of the Kansas City group. He's OG here.
Yeah.
We're going to let Jonathan go.
There. Boom. We're going to make him real big too.
So that whole thing started around here because I couldn't get anybody to like respond to anything. You know, I was sending PMs to guys in Kansas City that had cool theaters on the forums and saying like, hey, I like this hobby. I'd like to meet you. I'd like to tour your theater. And they're probably like, get out of here. You know, I don't know you from Adam. I don't trust you. I don't want
you just want to come over and steal my subwoofers.
Yeah, you weirdo. Quit talking to me. So the only way I could get past that was this is 2011 time frame. And I'd tried for years to kind of go to some of the cool theaters in the area. Mm-hmm. I said, hey, I'm going to host a subwoofer meet at my house. I got measuring equipment. We got a couple guys around here. You bring your sub over to my house. I'll host it. I'll provide the food. I'll provide whatever, you know, the venue, and we'll just compare subwoofers. And so I reached out to some of those same guys that I'd talked to over the years, or at least that I'd tried to self-invite myself over to, and said, would you want to bring your subwoofer for this? And that kind of broke the ice, right? Because now I'm not asking to go over to their house. I'm saying, come over to my house and let's compare gear. And everybody in the hobby likes that kind of stuff. So we had a small group, maybe of like 10 guys or something that came over for that first one. And some of those guys I'm still fast friends with all these years later, you know. Nice. 11, 12 years later, still friends with those guys and hang out with them regularly. So it was a good opportunity in a lot of ways. Then we did the next one. We did one like almost every year and sometimes twice a year. And then it started going to like a monthly less, you know, like the subwoofer shootouts or the speaker shootouts, those kind of take a lot of energy and, you know, planning and prep, and you want to do it right and all that kind of thing. Now it's just mostly a monthly movie night, and we might do 1 or 2 shootouts a year, but we'll just have, you know, an opportunity where it's informal, low stress, just, hey, come over, let's watch a movie, have some popcorn together, you know, just hang out, talk gear.
So it sounds like, number one, you got to have food. That's the key. And so Chris says pizza, beer, and more pizza. You throw that out there and people will come, and then have some subwoofers. That's pretty cool. And by the way, I love the way you say subwoofer. I think that's so cool, man, because I don't say it that way. I just say subwoofer.
Yeah, that's probably
kind of dumb.
Midwest coming out.
Yeah, I think it's important on this to try and, because there's a couple ways we can go on these get-togethers. I think we should segment these into 2 pieces, because one of them is just get-togethers, and the other ones are comparisons, or more of an objective approach that we've done.
Sure.
So I think it's important that we try and segment these a little bit.
So maybe let's talk about the get-togethers first. Let's do that.
Sure.
So let's do that.
I'm going to let Jonathan continue.
Well, so, I mean, the shootout is what brought us all together. And then the get-togethers kind of formed after that, after we kind of made some bonds and friendships and so forth. Sure.
So what is a typical, like, give us a picture, paint a picture of what is a typical just get together look like, maybe if you were hosting it at your home?
Sure. So
Like even time frame and structure of that, and kind of what does that schedule look like? Is there a schedule?
yeah,
And who do you invite?
yep. For our monthly movie nights, we just organize it off of AVS Forum. So we have a thread there, the Kansas City thread, and I kind of solicit. You do need someone to kind of stir the pot, so to speak. I do
You need a
solicit.
leader.
Yeah, and it doesn't somebody to kind of keep the first post updated so people have a place to reference and kind of like beat the drum to get volunteers. But I just say, hey, we got a movie night, a host for October. Who's willing to do it for November, December? And then people step up. And so the organization is such. They'll say, I can host on Tuesday night at 7 p.m. or I can host it Saturday at 2 or whatever. It's their schedule. You don't have to have everybody in the group come. And at first, you're not going to have hardly anyone come. Right. But so we'll just say, hey, whoever can make it Tuesday night, 7 o'clock, we're going to watch Top Gun or whatever, that type of thing. And then people just come over and, sometimes our wives will make food or we'll, barbecue or order a pizza or whatnot. And, it's just a good time. And we've watched everything from like AAA, flashbang type stuff to documentaries. It's just, it's kind of like host preference. And sometimes they'll even just vote on the movie, hey, which movie, these three, which would you like to watch? And so, it's just super informal. And sometimes we'll just even listen to music. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to fit in a box.
So as you can see here, this is your AVS thread, right?
Yeah.
And so you have the first post kind of showing who all is in your local group. Like these are local guys, and gives you an idea of, okay, who is around here, kind of what area they're at. And then kind of a couple photos of their setups. You can go, oh, dude, that'd be cool. I'd love to go check out his theater. Man, he's got some nice comfy seats there. Man, I love those, looks like some DIY sound group speakers,
The hardest part about a lot of this is getting it started. It's 100%. Getting people, and this is what a lot of people comment about when they come into the Midwest that have come in from out of town, is that how do you feel comfortable going over to somebody's place that you don't know? Right?
Food, beer, pizza.
Yeah, but you still have to overcome something. I mean, there is there is something to say about a fear of, getting chopped up in somebody's woodshed and getting left in the woods behind somebody's house.
That's
right. I think people just need to recognize that the people that are trying to do this are much like them. Yeah. And they just want to have somebody to share it with, because home theater it's great by yourself, but it's so much more when you share it with other people. I mean,
100%.
You've got these couches, you build these spaces specifically to be shared. And I think it's all the more fun to do that. And it's really important that people recognize that that's just what other people want to do. And they want to surround themselves and get together with people that are in the like mind and have a similar mindset to what they do. And it just becomes a lot of fun. And you meet a lot of people, you meet a lot of fast friends that I've met over the years, and it's been a great time, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. So I think the hardest thing is just getting started. Yeah. And having the confidence in saying, all right, well, I'll go. Give your wife or your significant other, your parents, your location, and then go for it. And at least if the person takes you out, they know where to find the body.
So here's a great question. Talent says, what if you don't have enough seating? Maybe your theater room is small. Maybe you only have, like my theater room, I've got 6 seats. I mean, I can bring in a couple chairs, but I don't have this big fancy basement like you guys and can house like 600 people.
Well, I can't either. I mean, I've got one couch and a table behind, so it's.
But you have the ability, like Jonathan, your room's pretty big, dude. You can have 30 people in your room, and they can take turns in those seats. But like, what do you do? Do you RSVP? Do you set it as a limit? Like, I know, I think Scott Newby, he does some at his house, and he's like, hey man, I've got space for 30 or whatever it is, 30, 50. I don't remember the number, but
Scott's is more of an experience, right? It's more of a ride. in that his room is built to be able to put out these ridiculous amounts of SPL.
Right.
So you have to RSVP for that because you're going for the experience and people want to go for that experience because not very many people can do that.
Yeah, for sure.
So I've never had to do an RSVP. I mean, Jonathan, the 2017 crawl, I mean, you had limited space.
We had a lot of people there, but that wasn't just a monthly movie night. That was an event too. I mean, we had 50 or 60 people from all over the US come to that one and kind of split it up. It hasn't been a problem, Michael, for that purpose, because most of our movie nights are like 4 to 6 people. And even if like a couple months ago, one of the new guys had an unfinished basement. He had a single couch in there, an OLED TV, and some speakers that were just basically kind of temporarily placed as he was seeking ideas. That was cool. 2 or 3 people sat on the couch and the rest had folding chairs, and we just kind of moved around. We were talking, we were helping him figure out how he wanted to plot his theater, the room, build the walls, where he's going to put everything. It doesn't have to fit everybody. You can have folding chairs or office chairs or anything and have fun.
People are more than capable of sitting on the floor.
Yeah,
sure.
That's not a big deal. Or bringing down kitchen table chairs or whatever. Don't worry about people. They just want to, again, what I said earlier,
they just want to be around
people that share the same mindset instead of bouncing things off their significant other and just them they're like, oh, you can tell me, and then just their eyes glaze over after the first 10 seconds of you being excited about the space. You all know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you got that right.
Yeah,
So Jonathan, you mentioned something that to me is really fundamental about these get-togethers is you begin sharing about your own systems, and you begin asking questions, and you begin talking about, how you can improve. And I think that's one of the biggest benefits when you do these. You call them home theater crawls, and I've still yet to figure out why you call them a crawl, but that's okay. But the home theater crawls, you're basically going to different people's home once a month, and you get to experience these really awesome home theaters. Like y'all just know how to do it well. I mean, just really, really top-notch home theater setups. And so it's definitely really cool to be able to go to somebody's home and let's just take, I think both of y'all now have near field subwoofers. There's a lot of people that have never experienced near field. Like that was before I came up to Wisconsin, Illinois, and Kansas City, I'd never experienced that. And I've been doing this for a long time. But like I said, the people down here, I just don't find a whole lot of people that are doing things like that. And so sometimes you go to somebody's home and you experience something for the first time. You may experience tactile transducers. You may experience a Kaleidescape. You may experience a Mad VR. You may experience a high-end laser projector. And so by doing this, it's kind of dangerous on your wallet. I get that.
I was going to say that. We need a disclaimer because it is very dangerous.
Yeah, but it allows you to experience some really cool things and to learn from other people. And I think that's the beauty of this whole community and what I challenge people to do. And one thing I was really appreciative of is when we had our event in Kansas, in Lawrence for M-Wave, I had several people from the Dallas area. I think, what do they call it? DFW? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're in the DFW area. And they're like, Michael, we started our own group. And that was so encouraging to me. Like that's everything of what I'm about and what we're about is we want to help encourage you guys to develop community in your own area and start these home theater get-togethers because, man, there's just so many benefits that come from that. You develop new friendships and relationships. And some of these, Jonathan, what would you say, and Ryan, what are some of the longest friendships that you've established from this?
Oh yeah, I mean, some of those guys, like I say, were at the original 2011 subwoofer shootout. That's like Carp and Jedi Master Grant and Ryan Chirpy is his name on the forums.
Yeah, Chirpy.
Yeah, just Randy Bessinger, a good friend of mine. Like there's a half dozen of them that came to that original event that we stayed friends with. Sure. And Ryan pointed out something earlier. When we've done a lot of speaker shootouts, even at these monthly movie nights. Hey, I got these 2 speakers. Let's just play with them, right? So you set them up side by side. You listen to them audition a little bit. You bring your wife down for that or your kids and say like, what do you think? Which one of these is better? And they're like, I'm leaving.
They're like, I don't care.
Why are you wasting your time? They're both good.
Yeah,
Save
but you
your
got
money.
a room full of guys that are interested in that, and you can solicit some feedback and really get some opinions and have some fun discussion. And you know, it's something you're interested in that maybe your family's not interested in. So you can share a common thread with somebody else that is.
Yeah.
I got my first OLED here recently, and I tried to get my wife to come down and look at it when I first turned it on because it was kind of awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
My wife's like, I don't care about that. I was like, Megan, please, please come down and look at this. It's so cool. She came out. She's like, I don't care anything about it. I just don't care about it, Jonathan. I'm glad you like it, but I don't care. I was like,
right.
Tim, come over. I want to show you this OLED.
It's kind of disheartening, man. It's kind of disheartening.
Yep.
Yes, Chris, you're exactly right. Grant did have the swing, so his kids, they have some special needs there, and he just absolutely poured into his kids. And he was like, man, I'm going to create a space that you can play and have fun and get some of that energy out after school. So I definitely did a home theater tour. He's got an incredible home theater too. So yeah, but it's cool that you are still friends with guys like Grant and Ryan as well. So super, super cool.
Yep.
Did the stream die or is it okay? Dude, that ain't even me. Oh, that's funny. So that's a spammer because guess what? That ain't me that said that.
No, that was me. That was me.
Oh, I was like, how in the world did I say
the
that?
Stream's like, no.
Like, say, wait, it's yellow. That means the video.
Everything's good.
No.
I was really confused.
I guess it
really
was my
confused.
internet. It was like everybody sounded like a robot.
Oh, no.
So
Everything sounds good.
I think that's good about the get-togethers, and I really encourage everybody that can, or even on AVS, just make a thread, and you may find that there's not a huge market in your area, but you may find that there's people closer than you think that are wanting to get together, that have like hobbies, like interests, and just want somebody to share this space with. So I encourage everybody to do that. But I think it's also go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was going to move on to the objective stuff. So before
I was going to just say, I think the truth of the matter is that you just need somebody to kind of ringlead it and to kind of get it started, right? Because it's not like Kansas City or Wisconsin has some sort of like weird magnetism to home theater enthusiasts. They're everywhere. They're spattered throughout. You just got to kind of find them and pump this up until you get it. You know, keep pulling threads until you figure it out and get something going. That's my opinion.
But it's also really important to stay active, because if the group dies and there's not a lot of activity, it just kind of sputters out into nothing. So I think that's a big reason why the Upper Midwest and the Midwest groups have done so well, or Milwaukee and Kansas City groups have done so well, is because they're both very, very active. We've basically gotten to the point where we're combining almost now in a mega Midwest group, it seems like. But I think that's just because it's once you establish a large enough group, you start making new friends further and further out. And it's really cool because you make these lifelong relationships in this space, and you find that no matter where you go in the country, once you start doing this for a while, there's going to be somebody there that you know, and you can stop and say hi, or just have an experience with. So it's really cool. I wouldn't trade it for the world. First time I met Jonathan, he cost me a lot of money with the JTRs, but it's a good time, and it's been a great experience. And I recommend that if anybody's on the cusp of thinking about starting something, just do it.
Yeah.
So I love this.
I love this thought. It says SRW says half the fun of the get together is just being able to talk to other enthusiasts face to face and discuss the things that we love, and that's really it. You know, you'll find that when okay. So here's something interesting. So I don't do local get-togethers, but I have had countless people reach out to me over the years, and they're like, "Hey, Michael, I'm going to be going to Disney World with my family. Is there any chance I could like swing by on the way to the airport, or, you know, or something like that?" And it's like, give a quick demo. And I oftentimes now, of course, I check out their Facebook profile, make sure they're not some freak, but they kind of, if I do some Facebook stalking on them, they look kind of on the up and up. Then sometimes I'll open up my home, and that seems weird, but the reality is you find out that you have an immediate connection with people because we share the same passion. We share the same hobby. And it's never really felt awkward for me, even though I'm an introvert. Even just talking with them for the first time, it's like you've always been friends because you've got that camaraderie. And I know that there are different groups. There's hunting groups, fishing groups, there's Harley Davidson groups. And it's kind of, I imagine they're the same thing. It's like once you know that they have a same common interest, man, it's just really easy to have conversation. So even if you're kind of like on the introverted side, I think you'll find that it's a lot easier than what you think.
Yeah, in the private chat, Michael, can you pull up those 2 links and share it with the audience? Whenever I try to share links, they get deleted, but I think if you as a host can do it. There's 2 threads on AVS forum that might help you if you're in another city and don't have a community like this built up.
Okay, here's one. So this is a subwoofer.
I'll demo my subwoofer for other enthusiasts, and I'll demo my speaker for other enthusiasts threads. Those are threads that we created years ago, right? And if you look at the first post in both of them, they'll have different cities, and you might even pull it up on your screen, Michael, if you don't mind.
Sure.
But they'll have different cities and people in those cities that are willing to, show their gear off. And the subwoofer one is probably the larger thread. For some reason, subwoofer enthusiasts might seem to be a little bit more passionate about the hobby, in my experience, for whatever reason. And so that's a more active thread, I think.
All right. So let's pull up the subwoofer thread. There we go. Boom. All right. So you started it here.
Yeah, and so we have a few states that don't have members, but you can see as you scroll down here through the states that there are people.
I got you. Here we go.
Who said, "Hey, I'm in this city.
Check you out."
And you can come hear these subs at my place.
Look at here, man. Florida.
There you go.
What? Look at these guys, man. I don't know these guys. Uh-oh. Some Captivators, SVS.
Yeah, there's a lot of resources out there. I mean, I just had a guy come through who flew in from Michigan that wanted to come in and demo something, that saw things on AVS and was passing through, and he was a big time Martin Logan fan and wanted to hear the theater. So he came through with his wife, stopped by for 45 minutes on their way to see family, and it's met somebody that I'll know for the rest of my life. So it's always great to make these relationships, and you just got to get over the hurdle of thinking that you're going to die. That's what my wife's always worried about. She's like, you're going over to somebody's house that you don't know. Aren't you worried that they're going to, kill you or something? It's like, no, I think I'll be okay.
So here's God honest truth. Sometimes I will tell somebody that has come over to my home, because it's never like an hour. I mean, it's usually like 3-4 hours. It's crazy. And so I'm like, hey, bro, you might want to text your wife or your girlfriend or whoever. Just let them know you're still living. Like, this youth man dude didn't kill you, because they might be a little concerned because they thought you were just going to pop in and pop out.
Pastor from hell.
Yeah, man. I mean, hey, there's some psycho ones out there, man. I'm not one of them. I'm a nice guy.
Are you?
But I am. 100% am. Yeah, man. Dude, I've never I was about to say I've never gotten a speeding ticket, but that would be a total lie. I've gotten 5 of them. But that was mostly when I was in high school. But that's it, man. I've never been to jail. Did go to driving school 5 times, but that was my choice. I think this turned into confession. Let's move on.
Let's talk about the objectivity here.
Okay.
Because those are a little bit different.
Okay.
We in Kansas City and a lot of people have done these, but we've done quite a few of these. What was the most recent one that we did, Jonathan? Did you do one recently at your place, or was it the projectors in January?
I've just done
we're talking about
smaller ones with projector shootouts at my house. The biggest one that we've done recently was probably at your house, Ryan, with the projectors.
Yeah. So these are really cool, and it's a great way to meet people. There were a lot of new people that actually came to that because it provides people a point of interest, right? It's a point that people can come around and actually travel a bit of distance for, because it's something unique. Because it takes a little bit of time and it takes a little bit of gear. I mean, you'll have to get some people or if you can furnish it yourself, to be able to furnish it and make it work. But it's really important when we do these. And I guess I should back up and talk about what we did. In January, we did a projector shootout. We did it in my basement, and we had all of the new JVCs. So the NZ series had just come out. We had an older Sony, an older JVC, a couple Epsons, an Optima. I think that was it. But the idea was to take projectors and fire them A/B at 2 screens right next to each other. So you could do direct A/B comparisons, because so much of this hobby is done subjectively, where you'll watch something and then you want to compare it to another projector, another display, or say speakers. Then you unhook everything and hook everything back up, and then you watch that. And you're sitting here wondering, was that better? Am I remembering correctly? Whereas if you do a direct A/B comparison, it makes it so that you can look back and forth and do a direct comparison between the two. And to take that a step further and make it more objective, the other thing you want to do on top of that is to make it blind. So now you have no idea what you're comparing. You're taking the bias that you may have, or the preconceived bias that you may have, out of the equation because you don't know what you're comparing.
Yeah.
So to try and make these as objective as possible, I think is really important, because you don't know what you like until you remove all of the subjectivity from whatever you're trying to compare. And that's just what the human mind does. And it's really important, if you want to get to the bottom of that, that you try and be as objective about it as possible with these comparisons. Jonathan, do you have anything to add about that?
Yeah, and I think there's also just kind of a basic level of knowledge or of setup and stuff that's kind of important for these evaluations.
Sure.
So you want to turn off auto EQ. You want to, make sure the speakers are centrally staged and similar. You don't, if you're going to do a comparison, you really want it to be objective. And I think a lot of times with some of these novice comparisons, I see that they're making some mistakes. So you can, the best way to probably do it is kind of look at some previous comparisons and kind of see what went well and what went wrong. And a lot of times when you do these shootouts, the host will just write a little post and say, hey, here's some things we did good. Here's some things we could do better next time.
And you can learn.
Yeah, you can learn a lot from that so that you don't make the same mistakes.
Well, and you learn a lot from doing them.
Yes.
Like we learned a lot from the January one that we then put in place at MWave.
Correct.
So I think that's important too, that you learn through failure. You learn through doing these things, and you can't expect everything to be perfect at the first time you do these. You're going to do something, you'd be like, oh, I forgot this, or something's not working and people are waiting. Man, that's just how things go. I mean, things are going to fail. Things aren't going to work, because that's just the nature of the hobby, the nature of you doing a get together. If you have people over to your house, rate of failure like exponentially increases. Something is going to go wrong that doesn't normally happen.
Yeah, but your rate of expertise goes up too. So it's nice to have that extra
that is very true.
knowledge.
Because you got other people that can help you figure it out and troubleshoot.
Yeah.
For sure, man.
And so like the kind of things that I read something on an ABS forum here recently that kind of was a little sad. Somebody had and I don't mean to call anybody out, just an example. So somebody had a BenQ 1070, which is like a 2010 based model projector, right? It's DLP.
Mm-hmm.
And then he bought a brand new Epson 12,000. And he compared them, and he said he liked the BenQ better.
Okay.
And everyone's kind of scratching their head. He made a thread on there saying like, what, right. How could projector technology not go good this better in 12 years? Yeah. Well, it has. And so something's wrong with the setup, right? So through kind of working through that with that thread poster,
people asking,
he had been watching House of Dragons, which is that new HBO.
Oh, no.
And he had used the Epson in HDR, and he had used the BenQ in SDR. Well, if you've watched Stop the FOMO's videos lately, he's been doing some work on that House of Dragons show. There's some scenes in that show that are literally 1 or 2 nits bright at the mastering level on HDR.
Weird.
So the SDR is way brighter than that. So this guy was comparing an HDR source on the Epson and an SDR source on the BenQ. It's not apples to apples. Your source is different.
Nope.
And so he walked away saying, like, I couldn't even see anything on the Epson. It was so dark. And on the BenQ, I could see stuff. And we said, switch your sources.
Gotcha.
Put the SDR on the Epson, and then it's obvious that it's something like that. But just going into it,
sure,
you just got to kind of think through those kind of avenues and realize that everything may not be as square as you think it is, unless you kind of, if something doesn't come out like you expect, look at the picture, try to figure out what the variable is that caused that. Don't just assume that that's the correct answer. You got to kind of tease it
and ask for help.
Yeah.
Don't try and reinvent the wheel. If you know people that have done these before, I can promise you that the majority of them are more than willing to share what they've done, share what they've learned, share their failures, so that you don't have to go through the same trials and tribulations that they did. So don't try and start over from scratch when so many have already done this and gone ahead of you. What'd that say?
Said
my wallet. Yeah.
That's the way it works, man.
Bad for my wallet too. Don't worry, Jonathan.
Just looking at some of the
Anything
comments
else
here.
You guys want to add?
I'm just starring comments and questions while you are talking on that.
I haven't seen many questions.
Yeah, I've got a couple.
I think just as some basic stuff to get started, a good way, as we talked about, would be inviting people over to your house. You could say, I'm going to do a speaker shootout. Here's the speakers I have. Would someone want to bring over their speakers? And then, you can set them up, turn your EQ off, set them next to each other. If you want to do a blind better, you can go to Joann's and buy speaker cloth that you can hang from the ceiling or whatever with push pins or whatnot. And then you don't even know what's playing.
Right.
Level match them with a SPL meter. They're about $30 if you want to buy one off Amazon. That'll work great to make sure that you're level matched. Because as we've talked about on this show before, louder will be better unless you have them level matched.
Sure.
And then you can even stagger them so that you have not the same two on the outside. You have them mixed up.
Alternate.
Yes, and especially if you have more than two, because that sweet spot, the stereo sweet spot, can play into which one you like better too. So you kind of want that to not be variable. And switch your positions. Everyone can bring a couple songs that they want to listen to that they're familiar with, and then you can play through that list like that and kind of figure out what you like. And they're a good time. It can take 3 or 4 hours to listen to 2 or 3 speakers and get a good impression of them.
Sure.
And it's enjoyable.
And again, it just allows you. One thing I love and that we try to provide at M-Wave is just the ability to hear and experience things that you normally wouldn't get to, anywhere else. I mean, I don't know anywhere you can go to have 7 like really cutting edge, really brand new, latest, greatest projectors side by side and go, okay, I want to see this one and this one. And we put them side by side in a blind comparison. And we could care less who wins. I mean, it's not about declaring a winner. It's about allowing you to just experience them, seeing how much difference is an Epson LS12000 against an NZ8. There's a big difference in cost there. And so if you're looking at the 2 images and you're going, prime example, I had a guy run up to me. We were comparing I think it was the LS12000. I don't remember. Maybe it was the NZ7. And he ran, and I think just about all of us in certain scenes, especially in dark scenes, black levels, that the NZ7 clearly was the winner. But he ran up to me afterward and he sat down and he said, Michael, he said, thanks for putting this on. He said, I got everything that I came for. And he said, I'm buying the Epson. He loved it. He's looking at this 150-inch image and it's a beautiful picture. It's got great color. It's plenty bright enough for his, theater room. And it fit his budget, and which was just a really cool experience. But where else could he go to be able to put that up against these higher end projectors to see, should I save my pennies? And, and for him, he was like, I'll be just fine. I'll be satisfied with an LS12000, which is a beautiful projector. So being able to do that, and if you can do this in your own home with a couple of guys, dude, that'd be super, super cool. We actually did it here in my home. I forgot about this a long time ago when I first started my channel. I don't even remember how. I think we connected on Facebook, but I had the Klipsch RF7s, the RF7 and the RF7 and another guy had a pair of RF7 but he had modified them with like some Dean G crossovers. And he's like, man, I'll bring those over too. And I just invited a couple dudes over and we went through, kind of like you said, we staggered them. So you didn't have, because what'll happen is we had 4 pairs of, let me see if I can find the image. Actually, I think I got it. It's kind of an interesting photo. And I don't think this is, now that I think back, we may not have staggered them when we did. So we may have
For
did
what?
it wrong. Like I said, we just had
At M-Wave?
No, this was at my home. I'll show you.
Well, M-Wave, we didn't stagger them because I got overruled.
Let's look here. Let's see. Theater. Desktop. Theater. Let me find that photo.
I see a Sim in the comments here. He's somebody I met in a crawl years ago out east. Friends with some of the East Coast guys.
Here we go. So yeah, so I didn't have these staggered. So if you think about this, the 2 innermost speakers probably going to be at a disadvantage because they're a lot closer. And then maybe even the ones all the way at the ends are going to be, they might play differently than the two in the middle. And so probably a better idea would be to stagger these, to put, the RF7 threes, twos, and then ones. And then on the other side, do the same thing. 3 on the inside, 2 on the middle, 1 on the outside, or something like that.
The easiest way to think about it, if you want this to be even, is you would have whatever is the most inside on the right side is the most outside on the left side. And then you move to the right. So now second from the left over here on the right is now second from the left over here on the left. And that way you keep an equidistance as you move across, so that everything it should have the same imaging distance, and it provides a more fair comparison. And it also provides the same, or hopefully the same, because this is something else you want to consider, distance from you or from the speaker to the main listening position. And these are all things that most people don't think about, right? These are all things that
we just set them. I'm like, that's a cool photo. That's all I thought. I was like, this is awesome.
These are all things that you learn while you do this. And it's all things that if you ask people that have done this, they may tell you, hey, we did this way. I should have done it this way. Like an M-Wave. I was overruled about, I wanted to do it where we staggered, and everybody was like, some of the people were like, no, don't do that. And I was like, okay, well, fine. But looking back, I should have stood firm and just said, no, this is what we're going to do. And then done it that way, because it would have been a more objective comparison. But, you live, you learn.
Yeah. So next year, that's just what we needed to do. We need to stagger them. So cool thing. Any other thoughts on how to set up a local, either home, a local shootout or a local get together?
If you do local get togethers, I think it is also important to demo how you listen, because I think a lot of people know how ridiculous rooms can get. I mean, if you listen like that all the time, I guess that's great. I listen at a really high base level, so I think that's great. But so many times people are like, oh, let me just turn this up way past what I listen at, and it just gets to be a little bit much. So I think it's important to demo at the level that you listen or the routinely watch at, and it just provides a more routine, or not routine, but enjoyable experience. Everybody.
Super cool. All right. Well, we'll jump in. We got about 20 minutes. Let's jump into some questions. If you got questions in the chat, doesn't have to be in regards to this particular topic. It can be anything home theater related, 2-channel related. Drop those in the chat. Ryan will keep an eye out on those and star those. We'll just cut it off about 5 minutes before, so we can address them all. So let's go ahead and start jumping through some of these. So number one, Jonathan Rose says, I know this is not on topic, but Ryan and or Jonathan, how do you HDR and SDR container in MadVR? So that is way beyond me.
I had Jonathan clarify this later on in the chat. And what he's asking is how are you, I think what he's asking is, how are you watching HDR with a display that's set to SDR? And how you do that, the reason you're able to do that is because the video processor, in this case MadVR, is doing the tone mapping, and you don't send an HDR flag to the display, so it doesn't change over to the HDR content type. As long as the SDR mode on that display type has access to a wider color space like BT 2020 or DCI-P3, and then they can sync between the video processor and the display has no idea that it's HDR content. It just thinks it's SDR content with a wider color space, and then it will therefore display appropriately, even though the content type is set to SDR. SDR is just content type. When you start using external video processors, as long as everything is connected and jiving correctly, it doesn't matter. You could use an HDR content type, but the issue there is that if you do that, say you're on a JVC, you have to make sure that you disable the display's onboard tone mapping. Otherwise, you're going to be double tone mapping an image.
Cool. Jonathan, you got anything to add to that?
No, Ryan covered it really, really well.
Nailed it.
Yeah, that's the bottom line, is your display doesn't actually see that it's HDR at all. It sees that it's SDR. And so it's not, your display doesn't know any better.
Nope. Gotcha. Cool, man. Great question. Number 2, Ryan says, any thoughts on using professional cinema speakers in a home theater setting, JBL, EV, etc.? I recently just heard this, and I didn't realize that it was even. I've heard several home theaters that have had like what I would consider pro audio systems. And one of them recently was Meyer Sound, which was really cool. So apparently that's typically not found in a lot of home theaters. They, my understanding, they do it like in recording studios and things like that. But holy cow, man, it was phenomenal. Like really, really good. So you guys, you want to speak to some JBL EV and some other types of pro audio in your home theater?
I think about half the guys in Kansas City at this point are using pro audio stuff. And it doesn't have to be that way. And there's people that use both, audiophile stuff or pro audio stuff or monitors, do it yourself, all that kind of thing. But pro audio has a lot of performance at a comparatively lower price.
Mm-hmm.
And so
more bang for your buck.
Yeah. And so you also have better published stats and specifications for the speaker. You have polar plots. You have legitimate sensitivity numbers, that aren't marked up or, false. And you also have a whole other community as far as like you can go to the pro audio forums and kind of read how these things performed at gigs and that kind of stuff, right. Pro Sound Web, that kind of thing. It's a different way to navigate to the same end destination, for home theater cinema experience. Mm-hmm. They're going to typically be more sensitive. They're mm-hmm. going to typically allow louder volumes.
Yeah.
They're going to be more capable in that context. They may not be as refined in all cases as like an audiophile speaker, and they're certainly not going to look as pretty. No. So, yeah. They have their set of criteria that would make you choose them or not. But there's nothing wrong with a home theater cinema system made of pro audio. It's quite a good way to go, in my opinion.
It's not like Jonathan speaks from experience or anything.
Exactly. Yeah, let's see. Look behind there, buddy.
Yeah, my last two rooms have been, I had Mackies before these, which were pro audio speakers.
Yeah.
And, I think if you go on the ABS forum, it seems like, this doesn't necessarily mean that you do end up here, but it seems mm-hmm. like a lot of the longtime posters that have been on the forums for a long time and seen a lot of gear,
right?
They kind of start migrating that way.
Interesting.
I'm not saying that that's what everyone should do or that's the trajectory everyone will take, but it's been my observation. And that's how I kind of got pulled into it, is kind of, you start ferreting out all the different options and a lot of people end up there.
So Jonathan, is it a fair assessment that a lot of people that go that direction choose maybe not to do that with their subwoofers because a lot of the pro audio gear don't necessarily dig that low?
That's
because they're designed for music, typically like concerts and things like that. So they typically don't have to dig real low. But when you're getting into multi-channel, even some multi-channel audio, but mostly home theater, the LFE channel, sometimes, you've got single digits. Really, really low frequencies. And to get those infrasonics, those types of pro audio subwoofers typically are not going to be able to generate. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I hadn't even meant to consider that. If those same people that go to the pro audio stuff in the home theater forums that have been in the lots of years, they'll steer you clear of home theater subs that mm-hmm. are based on pro audio. In fact, I went against the grain for our 2011 meet because I think I've shared about this in the past, but it's an interesting story. I bought a Yamaha Dual 18 pro audio sub. And it was tuned about 35 hertz or something. And I'd kind of been interested in it for a few years on the forums. And, the guys that were in the know were saying, don't buy that for home theater. And I'm saying, well, like, I'm reading these reviews and it says it control your heartbeat in a giant gymnasium. Why wouldn't that be awesome in the home? Not really knowing that much about, frequency response tuning, not really knowing measurement stuff that well at that point. This is back kind of 2011 timeframe. So I bought one, and I wanted to have it there for that subwoofer comparison, right? This is a big, huge tune ported sub, 35 hertz, and it got beat by an SVS in the competition that was an SVS 12, chirpy sub actually.
Right.
And it wasn't that they got beat in volume. The Yamaha was way louder. It was that little SVS sub with its deep port tune. I think it was like, I don't even remember, 20 hertz, 16 hertz, something like that. It's been a long time ago.
Yeah.
But that little SVS could make your pant leg flap, on the little movie scenes where you had some bass. And And that Yamaha, the Dual 18, was all about like just kind of making that your chest vibrate or your hair vibrate, or that like, you know, that kick drum. And it was just a different presentation. And everybody, I mean, almost universally, for music, that Yamaha sub rated very high. We took select subjective votes and tallied them and so forth. For music, that Yamaha sub rated very high, but for movies, it was one of the worst in the whole mix.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, stay away from pro audio subs for home theater use. Absolutely. Good point, Michael.
So Sam the Surfing Man says,
hold on.
What?
There you go.
I know, dude.
Well,
I even started. I'm getting there. Rock has a appreciate the $10 super chat. Youth Man and Ryan, we in the DFW are hosting our third get together in a couple weeks, dude. That is super, super exciting, man. I really love the fact that you guys are doing exactly what we're talking about. This was all due to M-Wave and the Kansas City group inspiring Rusty and myself. Thanks, DFW Home Theater Enthusiasts. Hit them up, man. They've got a great, let me see if I can pull up their AVS DFW. I think it's called Get Together. Let's see if I can find you guys. Yeah, here we go. Boom. I'm going to pull it up in the chat or in the stream here. So if you're in the DFW area, or maybe you're even further out, but you're just willing to drive, nothing wrong with that. These guys would love to have you over. So this is the official DFW Texas Home Theater Tours / movie nights / G2Gs get-togethers. So you can kind of see who all's involved here. So definitely jump over to the AVS thread. Actually, I will copy this. Let's go and throw this in the chat.
Hey, Brockstar, see if you can reach out to 7 Channel Freak on the forums. He lives in Texas, and he was really active in our get-togethers for several years. I haven't seen him much lately, but he'd be a good addition to your group if he's in that area at all.
Nice. Super, super cool, man. John, appreciate you, man. Great that you guys are hooking up. Rusty's a great dude, man. We had a chance to hang out with him, and like I said, I love seeing the fact that you guys are now building community and friendships, and y'all even went to CEDIA together. So that was really cool. So, and I even saw you in some of the videos, man. You didn't come find me, bro. What happened? So just kid, man. Nothing but love for you. Let me see here. Let me go back to, all right. So now if I remember, I don't remember what I had posted though. Oh, here we go. I found it. Sam the Surfer Man says, I run 2 Home Pro Audio Dayton 18 subs running down to 25 hertz and 2 Dayton 18-inch subs taking over from 25 hertz down to 10 hertz. So super, super cool, man. Sometimes you just got to get a little creative. But again, he's not using the Pro Audio subs to dig real deep. So definitely good option there. Jed Presley says, anyone experience any power sound audio speakers? Briefly heard a set of MTM 210s. I was surprised by their clarity and loudness. So I've only heard one home theater, I think, that had power sound. No, maybe 2. It was the big home theater. He has a Christie. Remind me who he is. The name. He's got a Christie projector.
No,
Steve. His name was Steve. And actually that might have been in the Illinois group in Kansas. I mean, the Illinois and Wisconsin. But Steve's got just a killer, beautiful home, big home. He just bought the Christie Griffin, I think. So that's super cool. Got an upgrade. He had a lot older Christie projector, but he was running Seton audio, for his LCR behind this massive screen. But he was running power sound audio for his side surrounds, and maybe even his Atmos channels, possibly. I can't remember. And then I heard one other system that was a power sound audio, LCR, side surrounds. But yeah, power sound audio makes some great speakers. They make their subwoofers are pretty killer too. So they dig down to single digits, a lot of output. I reviewed I think it was called the 3611. So it was a dual opposing 18. That thing was a beast, man.
Yeah, PSA is that same lineage as JTR. That's the style they go to with the compression driver in the center. A couple of Pro Audio 10-inch or 8-inch or 12-inch drivers, depending on which one you're looking at.
Yeah, they use a smaller horn though. So I think that's the one thing that I noticed when I was listening to the one LCR. I don't know, just it wasn't as clear as what I've heard with some of the JTR systems, but they make phenomenal stuff, man. Tom is a great dude too, man. I've had quite a few conversations with him, the owner. He's just a super, super nice guy, and he makes great products, man. He's all about performance, and you know, you're not going to find any fancy cabinets with his. And same thing with JTR. They're really just looking at, okay, what can we do to provide the most output, the most low distortion, great networks in them, but we're not really going to worry about making these cool veneers. I mean, if you want that, some of them offer that for an additional cost, but that's not their focus. But yeah, I think you can get some great sound out of Power Sound Audio. William says, question for you guys. I'm not really convinced by Kaleidescape. Seems like a ton of money for a slight improvement over UHD Blu-ray.
I guess I'll take that one. So the appeal to Kaleidescape is very much dependent on what you want out of your system. Some people really like physical media. Some people like digital. Some people like ease of access, right? And what I have found is that the older I get, the more I just don't want to mess with things, and I just want things to work. So you come to this crossroads of trying to figure out what is your time worth and how much are you willing to pay to make things easy. I don't necessarily think that the video improvement is really anything. I mean, I think it's beneficial in some capacity because there are things that come out on Kaleidescape that were never out on physical media. The instant upgrades are nice when new media comes out. Like there was one for Jurassic Park Dominion where they fixed some things and then you just got a free update. You don't have to go buy the physical media again. So that's nice. It's also really nice to just be able to buy whatever you want. That can also be very dangerous because instead of you deciding, oh, I just want the new James Bond, now you own every James Bond because it was on sale. So again, to too long didn't read or too long didn't listen, it just comes down to what do you think your time is worth and how much do you think you're willing to pay just to make it so you don't have to worry about it again. Sure. That's a lot of money, but to some people it's worth it, and that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and I think I've seen a bunch of Kaleidescapes in different systems, different home theaters, and every time I see it, I'm like, I'll be honest, man, I want it. I'm thinking this would be awesome, but I'm like you, I'm thinking that's a lot of money too. So you got, I mean, for some people, to drop that amount on a Kaleidescape is not a big deal. It's like me spending $100. It's like, okay, I could pull out $100 and buy something right now, no big deal. To them, it might be the same thing. So for, like Ryan said, for some people, having the convenience of pulling it up, finding the movie, and now they just partnered with Josh AI. So they now actually have some voice automation. So you could say, hey, Josh, watch Maverick on Kaleidescape. And boom, Maverick loads up and man, you're up and running. So those types of things, that automation. And then also the other thing, speaking of automation, Kaleidescape can tie into a lot of different things like your lighting. So it just really depends on, again, what your goals are in your home theater, what your budget is. I don't think anybody here is going to try to convince you that you need to go buy a Kaleidescape. You're the only one that can figure out whether or not what it provides is worth the amount of money that it costs for you, And again, I think some people, that's a no-brainer. Like, yeah, Kaleidescape all day. If I had the money, I would buy Kaleidescape 100%. I mean, like no questions. Can you do the same thing with Plex and rip in your own media? Sure. I don't want to be figuring that out. And on top of that, me being a content creator, I spend a ton of time editing on my PC that I built. I don't want to be tying up that PC, ripping, my media onto a NAS server, bringing that over, importing it. There's just a lot of extra steps there. If you don't mind that, hey, go for it. But then again, you're still, buying physical media, ripping those to your NAS server. And then you've got to have some kind of player like a Zadu or a Zapedi. So there's some cost there, but definitely not near the cost that you would pay for Kaleidescape. So again, you got to figure out what works best for you. So again, I don't think we're trying to convince anybody. I know with Cedia, I partnered with them. We did a cool home theater tour, really, really nice setup. It was that Meyer sound, beautiful, beautiful sounding system. And they had Kaleidescape in that. So I had another opportunity to see that, and then also visit their booth. And one thing I saw that I asked a question, because I knew some of you guys would want to know, is I thought it'd be cool if they could create their own scenes. Like Kaleidescape has kind of baked in each movie. Let's just say maybe there's 5 or 6 scenes that you can jump to. But what if I want to make my own scene? The cool thing is you can actually do that with Kaleidescape. And it's really simple. So, those types of things, if it fits your budget, if it has the value proposition that works for you, then go for it. If it doesn't, there's definitely a lot of other options out there. And of course, we always have physical media, which is what I pretty much rock right now. And I have Plex, but, again, I think you just got to figure out what works best for you. So great question, man. Appreciate that, William. Fred says, Ryan, do you offer monthly payments on Kaleidescape?
No.
Yeah.
I wish I could, but no, I can't.
Yeah. So again, and that's literally the only negative that we hear about Kaleidescape is like, man, if it was just only cheaper. The reality though is I can't imagine the licensing fees that they have to pay for the movies,
I don't know.
So, but that's my guess. I don't think it's one of those things where they're like, yeah, we're just going to stick it to them and our player costs X amount of dollars, but we're going to charge absorbent amounts and make tons of money to get rich. I don't think that's their heart. I really don't. But everything in business has a cost. And if you can find a cheaper way to make a Kaleidescape, go for it, man. Consumers would love it and you'd be rich. So there you go. Eric says, how long is the typical get together? Great question, man. 3 to 4 hours, time to talk and discuss, demo. And so that was maybe one thing that we didn't address is like that time frame. So Jonathan,
I think you answered this in chat.
Okay. Well, you got to do this verbally, man. People don't read chat.
I know. That was me telling him to answer the question.
Yeah. What'd you say, Jonathan?
I think he's muted.
Uh-oh.
There's no set time, but a lot of times we'd probably go about 6 hours, really. I mean, that's what it is, right? People come and go as they can. But if we start at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, some people will leave at midnight or 1 a.m. If the host is up for it and the guests are up for it, why not? Yeah. And the other people come in, I can only be here for a couple hours. I go home, put the kids to bed, whatever. It's fine. It's just easy and informal.
Yeah. Kind of what do they call it? Pop in. Yeah.
Just
pop in, hang out for whatever you can.
And like a couple of us are 15 minutes apart. So if you're 15 minutes apart, why not? And then Ryan and I are an hour apart. So then it's a little less easy to pop in, but we still make it.
We still manage.
Great question, man.
Yeah. One point of clarity. The crawl moniker that we use is meant to be like when we go to visit multiple houses in the same weekend, or kind of like a crawl through home theaters. Think pub crawl, like back in college days or whatever. It's a home theater crawl. Whereas our get-togethers or our monthly movie nights are not really known as crawls.
Okay.
So that might be some of your confusion.
I got you. That makes a whole lot more sense. I'm like, because a crawl, what the heck is it? But I'm not even familiar with a pub crawl, so I didn't know that terminology. So that makes a lot more sense. Appreciate you clarifying that. And pop this back up. Jonathan Rose says, Ryan, are you looking forward to Dune TV series that they're working on?
I think so. I know nothing about it. I did really like the movie. I really like the books. I'm excited about any of that stuff. Just hope it doesn't suck.
Yeah. Jonathan, have you seen Dune, the full movie?
The new one? Sure.
Yeah, you're like, of course, sure. Guess what? I haven't. Makes me look like a turd, man. It's like, of course, all the good, normal home theater.
All the true home theater enthusiasts have seen Dune.
I've yet to watch. I've watched a bunch of clips and demos, but I haven't actually, seen the whole movie myself. So,
It's
Need to
got
buy
some
it.
good
Need to
reference
buy it
level
like that.
scenes. Next time
Yeah.
you come over, I'll play some of them for you.
Well, that's the key. I've been to Ryan's home. I've been to a bunch of people's homes. They show
That
me these
played those
clips.
scenes. All right, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, all right, that was awesome, but
Mm-hmm.
I haven't physically bought the movie to sit down and watch the entire movie. So definitely need to do that. Good question there. Drew, I'm sorry, Do. I saw it over in the corner and then looked over here. So douchebag 16. You got me there, buddy.
Yeah, this is like a Simpsons episode right now.
That's hilarious. So I hope you guys can help. I know you have to replace the lamps on a lamp-based projector. However, I heard that eventually, no matter if the lamp is new, the image quality will degrade. Is that true?
Depends on your panel technology. LCD lasts like 100,000 hours. And so if you have an LCD-based projector, it's not going bad for a long time. Some of the Sony panels have a little bit of image degradation with time. They've been talking about that on AVS forum. So not necessarily related to the bulb change, just time-based, right? Because it's an organic composite and it starts failing over time. So your image degrades. So it really is more about the panel tech than the bulb itself.
And what about so how does that compare to our new lasers? We've got a lot of companies now, Epson, Sony, JVC are producing these laser technologies. How does that differ?
It doesn't, because the panel is really where the degradation would come from. So the lasers on a linear reduction of brightness, but it's not, your image quality isn't going to necessarily change dramatically over that time. Your brightness is just going down. Whereas with the panel techs, contrast starts getting worse, colors can start getting worse, uniformity can start getting worse as that panel starts to degrade.
Gotcha. All right, got another question here. Daniel Sergi says, hey guys, how would a Marantz flagship processor hooked up to 6 Crown XLS Class D amps be match-wise? And planning on using a full JTR system with his speakers. So the biggest question is, if he takes a flagship processor, but then pairs that with some Class D Crown amplifiers, which I'm looking at 2 dudes in this chat or in the video stream, and they're both using Class D Pro audio amplifiers. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I thought you had that.
Yeah,
you do.
I'm kidding.
I was about to say, man. I know you got a couple of different models
we did a shootout with these, Jonathan, right?
Yes.
With the Crowns and Behringers and stuff.
And a benchmark.
Benchmark was, at that time, it was the top dog on Audio Science Review, and we couldn't tell the difference. Now, I voiced this last time, I think it was on the last stream last week, that I am moving into getting ready to go to Buckeye amps, and it's not because I dislike my Pro amps. The one danger that you run into with Pro amps a lot of times is noise floor, right? So depending on your speakers, JTRs are one of them that you want to be careful about because they are ultra sensitive. You may hear the noise floor. I know Grant has had some issues battling with his JTRs on noise floor with his amplifiers. So it's just something you may want to consider. Not saying the Crowns are bad. It's just something you may want to consider.
Gotcha.
Jonathan, anything you'd want to add?
Yeah, I mean, those Crowns are solid amps. I would question whether you actually need amps with JTR speakers. And I think Michael's kind of spoke to this before. Those the JTRs are like 100 dB sensitive.
Oh, you mean using them on an AVR?
I mean, do you even need that?
Like, they have to be powered, Jonathan. I thought you would know better.
Okay, so if flagship processor, if it's a pre-pro, yes, you need amps. If it's an AVR, you might not.
Yeah. You can still get some great sound with them.
You can get a lot of sound out of an AVR, flagship AVR with a high sensitivity speaker.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Last question of the night. Brockstar with another $8 super chat. Appreciate it. Be honest, guys. Revyon 200, which is, I believe, kind of like I forgot about that. Is that like a 4K player, or is it almost like a Zadu Zapidi? Because I'm not familiar with those.
I think it's
a 4K player.
Isn't it Zapidi's?
Kind of like their competitor?
No.
Pull it up if you don't mind. So we got Revvion 200 versus a Panny 9000, which is their flagship 4K player.
I know nothing about this company.
Yeah, and then there's Panny 820. I've heard Chana Technodad, he recommends the 820 a lot. Great bang for your buck. I think it's around $500 versus the 9000 is pretty close to about $1,000.
Those are expensive.
So they have XLR, same company. Okay, same company as Zapedi. So it's basically similar to a Zapedi or Zadu. Has anyone experienced both? Ryan, your face. I think he's talking about you.
I always have faces, but this is interesting. I think the king of value is still the Panasonics. 820 if you need Dolby Vision, and 420 if you don't. I don't know that you're going to see a difference. I don't think you're going to see a difference. You guys differentiate on that at all? That's my opinion.
I'm just not familiar with it. Like I've never used again, I have a Pioneer LX. Oh man, I forgot the number. Man, I forgot the model number. LX 5000? No. Anyway, but I've got a Panasonic. It's kind of like, I'm not Panasonic. I have a Pioneer, which is similar to the Panny 9000, but they don't make it anymore. So Panasonic has been kind of the go-to for 4K players, and they also play some of the. I believe they play media, right?
Yes.
If you put a USB drive on it or a hard drive, can you?
I don't believe they can do copyright type stuff. So it doesn't pass the audio properly if you try to do that. The Panasonic, the reason that people say to go with those is because of their HDR tone mapping. It has a static tone mapping, which is in league with JVC's older static tone mapping. JVC's moved on to dynamic. Mad VR uses dynamic. Dynamic's better, but in the absence of dynamic, which is expensive, static tone mapping is better than nothing, and the Panasonic has that.
Gotcha.
I don't even know anything about that Revon 200. I'm not even sure I'm saying it correctly, so I can't answer that question either.
Yeah.
So looking at chat, I see some people saying that we don't know what we're talking about because the Revon is based on Oppo. And yes, but I would challenge you, the people that are saying that, to do a blind comparison and do a shootout with you not knowing which player is what, and be able to tell what the difference is, or if there is a difference. And that's the importance of doing an objective comparison. Is a lot of people, and I'm not saying that you're right or wrong. A lot of people fall in these rabbit holes and fallacies that they jump on the bandwagon of everybody else, especially on forums, and they say, "Oh, well, there's this massive difference in picture." When in actuality, it's a bunch. In most cases, it's subjectivity creeping in to somebody's idea in comparison because they're not doing a direct A/B comparison where they can see both on the screen at the same time. And if you don't do that, you're setting yourself up for believing in falsehoods. It's very easy to go down that rabbit hole. So I just want to encourage people that, and I've seen both, and I don't really think there's a difference. I mean, I've seen plenty of Oppos, and yeah, it's a great picture. Now, something I will say is if there is a feature that's on an Oppo, because the Oppo have a ton of features on them. If there is a feature on an Oppo that you value, absolutely. I mean, I say this all the time with AVRs and pre-pros, go after features. And if you need to pay more for a feature, channel count, or on these, like, I don't know, having analog outs, or being able to do SACD, or being able to do a multitude of other things, absolutely, that makes sense. But just basing things on picture quality and some other things, I don't think most people, if any, can see a difference, or if there is a difference.
So Rex is saying, there may be confirmation bias there.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure. I guess I'm in the dark on this one. Is that Revon? Is it a replacer, a successor to the Oppo, or is it the same company's higher tier?
That's what Gerald's saying. He said Revon was supposed to be the heir to the Oppo 203, but he says it's buggy.
When I courted Zapedi, and was supposed to come on with them as a dealer, and then it kind of fell flat on its face because the NAS got removed from availability here in the United States. That was what they were saying, that the Revon was the replacement for Oppo, but it's, as Gerald's saying, it's been kind of a mess.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, again, I just haven't reviewed one. I think Technodad, he's reviewed a couple of theirs. So, another thought here. Tyler says, Zapedi makes the Revon based off Oppo architecture but not quite as good for most reviews. But the Panasonic would be better for the price because, like you said, in a blind test, you can't see
One thing that people like about the Oppos, though, is using them for their DACs and other stuff that they have built into them for analog outs and stuff. So there are some benefits to them if you're chasing better, synad numbers and things off of having a better DAC or something. There's value, but the question is at the end of the day, can you hear that? Can you hear
Yeah, but
that
that
value?
also be if you're just using your analog amps, because if you're just passing HDMI, then your pre-pro or your AVR is doing the decoding, and that DAC on that Oppo doesn't do jack.
Yeah, sure.
I'm just trying to give people the benefit of the doubt and throw things out there that maybe they're going down, to try and throw things down everybody's rabbit hole. Maybe that's the direction they're going. I don't know. I think they're awesome players. If you have an Oppo, you made a good amount of money if you're going to sell it, and they're worth it
for sure.
That was one of those things. Whether you buy it for a third of what you can sell it for 5 years later,
you buy it for less than that. Like a $500, $400 player is worth like $5,000 now.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
For sure,
man.
Well, super cool, man. Well, we are up just over an hour. I told you we'd try to keep it to an hour, so I appreciate you guys hanging in there with us, man. Jonathan, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Ryan, of course. If you guys are interested in any home theater gear, definitely reach out to Ryan. He's nice most of the time.
I'm nicer now without a
beard. Somebody said you're less scary without the beard.
That was Channing.
That was funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely reach out to Ryan. Just super cool guy. He's going to shoot you straight. If he doesn't feel that you need something or need an upgrade, he's going to tell you. Yeah, so I've referred a lot of guys to him. Several of them replied back. The gentleman that just got the screen from you and said, man, he loves it. So he sent us some pictures of his setup. So, but definitely just reach out. But we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Hope you guys have an incredible week. We'll see you next Sunday at, I guess, 7 p.m. No, we do it at 8 p.m. 8 p.m. Eastern. So that would be
7 Central and 5 p.m. Pacific.
There you go. Appreciate that, man.
Got you. You're too tired.
I'm tired. I really am, dude. I am. Well, guys, hope y'all have an incredible week. I've got more content coming your way. Home theater. I have a home theater tour. I've got 2 more videos, I think, from Cedia, 1 or 2. And I've got a ton of reviews coming your way. So I hope you guys will stay tuned for that. So I hope y'all have a blessed week. We'll catch you in the next live stream and the next videos. Take care.